This is Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. If you drive long haul, short haul, or heavy haul, they're here to empower and inspire women in the trades on tncradio.live. So gear down, sit back, and enjoy.
Welcome to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. We're a show designed to inspire and empower women in trucking, in the trades, and women in every profession, with informative guests, experts, celebrities, and people who are champions for women. I'm Shelley, and
I'm Kathy.
Every topic can be discussed on our rig. We want women to be the very best they can be. And we like to interview experts who can offer guidance to women on topics that can empower them. Relationships and families can be challenging. When you're dealing with a blended family, the challenges can be even more complicated. Sometimes they seem insurmountable. It's difficult to be a stepmom or dad and to have to deal with an ex-spouse when you have children. Randall and Scarlett Tandy have faced those challenges. They both grew up in blended families and have a blended family of their own. They raised 4 kids together and were stronger for all the twists and turns that they took. They now coach couples on how to strengthen blended family relationships. They've created a roadmap called How to Enjoy Your Blended Family. We've got Randall and Scarlett on the show with us today, and we're excited. Welcome, Randall and Scarlett. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, welcome. Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here today.
Yes, for sure.
Now, I guess what I'd like to know is, how did all this start? And I'm just amazed that this kind of resource hasn't really been available because there's so many blended families out there.
Yeah, when you ask something like how does it start, I hear the Brady Bunch theme song come in.
There you go.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, we both, we didn't have a choice when we were growing up in a blended family. That was, us just being pulled along for the ride with our families. And then, of course, it wasn't something we envisioned for ourselves. We were both married and thought, it was for forever. And we found ourselves in a situation both in our mid to late 20s, going through a divorce, and just devastated, just heartbroken from that. And in the process of that, really just doing some like soul searching and figuring things out for ourselves. And here we are together.
Yeah. No, yeah, we were, both kind of in. If you've ever been through divorce, it is one of the most devastating things I think you could go through.
Yep.
You just feel like you're being ripped in two. And so, yeah, for both of us, we shared similar stories through that time frame. We were really just trying to work on ourselves and parent our kids, because I have one biological child. She has 2 biological kids. And, we were just trying to be there for our kids at that time. But, seeking love, I mean, we didn't want to go the rest of our lives without it. And so, we really did that soul searching kind of reflection. And yeah, we happened to meet on a softball field one day, and sparks flew, and we decided, hey, let's start this blended family, and so yeah, we did that journey. And we didn't, in a lot of blended families, none of us know going into it the challenges you're going to face. And, none of us even really, I think, know to ask the questions a lot. I know we didn't for sure at that time. And so as these challenges started arising, as far as, the step parent, stepchild relationships, as the co-parent relationships, trying to navigate through all that, we really struggled. And we found ourselves really trying to search for resources. And, we were looking for in our church, we were looking in books and everything, and just weren't finding a whole lot. But we would, it's funny, we would search for nuclear family, resources. And
well, I mean, they didn't call it that. It was just family, but we would try to do what they would say to do.
Yeah, not all of it worked. So, it's kind of one of those funny things. And yeah, so we had so many ups and downs. And throughout the years, we've now been married 14 years, together 15. Our kids are now young adults. And it's just staying the course through all the challenges, being able to work through those. Now we are reaping the rewards. There's so much beauty in it. And so really, we just felt led to pour out, what we know and what we've learned, what we continue to learn, so that other families may not have to go through as hard of challenges through that.
Yeah, like what we wish we would have had back then.
Yeah.
Right. What were some of the challenges that you were trying to seek answers for?
I think it started out, I mean, because we really were both just very optimistic about coming into this family. And so we were trying to create like a redo in a sense without really calling it that or knowing that we were doing that. But we came in immediately with some situations of just our parenting styles were completely different, where I might have a little bit more of a free spirit, maybe some guilt, attached to that when I'm trying to parent my kids. Both of my kids struggle with ADHD. And so going through that, and then Randall being more of a authoritarian.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. Yeah. A recovering authoritarian now.
And it was just him and his daughter for 4 years. And so with the parenting differences, that being one thing, which if you just married someone and you bring in your own parenting styles, if it was just your first marriage, right? But now we've been doing things our own way, parenting our children already. And then his daughter, which loved me in the beginning, really right before the wedding decided, hey, Dad, never mind. This isn't what I want for us. And so he had to really do some reflection on that. But that emotion that came up from her really carried into the beginning ages of our blended family.
Yeah, that was one of the bigger struggles. And, it's funny because now they're young adults, and having them reflect back, we've asked them some questions before, and she looked back because there was a lot of resentment that my daughter would have, because when she would go see her mom, her biological mother lived in another state.
Mhm.
And so that was challenging for her to go over there for a little bit and then come, be here. And she
Sure.
would put a lot of resentment with Scarlett just as that step parent role. But she reflects back now and she was like, Dad, she said, I never understood it then, but I was jealous of what our other two, that relationship that they had with their mother, and that I didn't have that in our house. And she said, I really resented them for that. And so it did, that was some of the challenges, trying to work through that, and then trying to understand co-parenting as well. Cause I
Yeah.
think on all sides, we had a lot of differences. And so
Mhm.
those differences led to just a lot of, initial arguments at first, until we figured, really tried to learn and navigate through that.
Yeah, because we had our way coming together. Like we thought, what this is right. That's how you raise your kids. And of course, they didn't agree with that necessarily. That's why we ended up divorced, right? Because we couldn't agree on things. And so
Right.
now you're having to parent someone that you don't agree with their ways, and you don't have say in all of that. I struggled a lot with not having control over what happened with my kids when they were away from me. So that was a pretty big deal. And then into the teenage years, I would say, is when everything came to a head.
Oh,
Which if
yeah.
For
Teenage
anybody,
years, oh
right?
my, that's always when things kind of blow up.
Yeah, and it would, like, in a normal situation, and then for us, like, our kids had an out, and so now where they didn't agree with how we did things, and they've been pulled, and, they want life with their other parents because we had full custody. So for the majority, our kids were with us, except, like, maybe every other weekend sometimes, or, like, extended time in the summer. So for us to go from, like, having them all the time, and now they're wanting to experience life with their other parent, we were against it, and so that caused static, and so we went through a period of like 3 to 4 years with really no contact with our kids, in different kids, different situations there. But that was probably one of our biggest struggles, which brought us to a place of really just discovering ourselves and doing another soul searching adventure there,
Sure.
and coming out the other end of that, realizing that we value the relationship with our kids way more than we value our standpoints on certain things or how we feel about certain situations.
I think in some cases, or in many cases too, when a blended family comes together, you were talking about resentment, there can be jealousy with the children. That they don't necessarily like the new stepmom or stepdad, and there could be sparring going on and a lot of dynamics that make it difficult.
There are, and we see that so much, because now the child is having to balance between two different dynamics a lot of the times. You know, they've got mom's way of doing things, they got dad's way of doing things. That looks different for all of us, but still, you know, and what we really found is being able to step back and put yourself in our kids' shoes and the struggles that they're going through, and them not understanding. And I think as a parent, the more and more we've learned is to really be able to understand that they don't know. They don't understand. They just know it stinks. They just know, hey, something's not right and I'm not happy. I can't put a name to it,
Yeah.
but this is just, you know, I don't like how things are going. And so what we found is really being able to be intentional and keep open communication to be able to help them talk through, well, you know, what's upsetting you, because a lot of times our kids, especially in blended families, they'll act out, you know, and
Yep.
we as parents are so good at addressing that issue. You know, we want to correct or parent that acting out issue when really it's a deeper issue going on inside of them. So whenever we can step back and really start talking to them, well, why are you feeling this way? And, you know, age appropriate for sure, but, you know, really trying to help them to navigate their emotions and their feelings of what they're going through.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry. Our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
We're talking about how to make blended families work and even thrive. We're talking with Randall and Scarlett Tandy. They're creators of How to Enjoy Your Blended Family. They've got some terrific insight. In our previous segment, we were talking about how to understand how a stepchild truly feels, how they're actually feeling, and helping them navigate those emotions and feelings. That can be a tough one to do for sure. You know, when they're little ones especially, I don't necessarily think they know. You know, I mean, they're just processing their own emotions and all of that. And children, I think, tend to, when there's been a divorce, they feel guilty.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so much going on there. What do you think, Kathy?
Well, I was just sitting here reflecting about how when I met my daughter's father, my very first husband, when I was 23, he had a little girl from a previous relationship, and he had full custody. So very similar situation. So as I'm, trying to, it's my first child, I'm young, I come from a very violent background and trying to figure out how I'm going to be a parent, all this stuff. And I was just thinking about how the one time the Leah, my ex-husband's little girl that I raised for about 5 years, she was about 3 or maybe 4, and she would go back and forth like a week with us and a week with her mom. And I was singing, you are my sunshine, my little sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray.
Aw.
Anyway, I was singing that. And she turns around with a viciousness that I wasn't expecting in a 4-year-old, and said, I'm not your sunshine. I'm my mom's
Oh.
sunshine. And then she storms out, and it
Sure.
took me aback. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, like it really hurt, because I'm a person who's filled with love, and I don't, my daughter or or his daughter, they were both our children, right? And
Yeah.
just trying to be the best parent that I could, and I'm just filled with love in
Yeah.
general. I always have been. So to hear that, it was like a slap in the face, and I didn't know how to respond, and I kind of went after her and just say, hey, honey, and
Yeah.
try to explain that to a 4-year-old, like.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, they don't give parenting. They don't. What do they say? They don't give a um, parenting
Parenting 101
handbook, or
books and
yeah, like
Yeah.
you do the best you can. And the thing
sure.
is, you use your own personal experience.
Yeah.
Like in my case, growing up with so much violence and awful things, I said I'm not going to be like that with my kids, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Right.
just navigating, like you said, to the best of your abilities.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the hard part as well. Kind of given that situation, most of us, you'll see that. You're going to see that in kids. For one, they are jealous, like you're saying. They don't want the divorce. In fact, there's always this longing in their heart that they want mom and dad to be back together.
Even when it's an unhealthy
Yeah.
situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's always that internal struggle. And then, unfortunately, a lot of times parents can put the child in the middle of situations just because of the disagreements. And, a
Mhm.
lot of time it's not even, we don't mean to do that, but sometimes it can come across that way. So they've got that pressure as well. But you'll see that acting out with that step parent relationship. But
Mhm.
and I think that's why resources and knowledge are so powerful, because our normal human instinct in that situation is like, little girl,
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
you will respect me. I may not be your biological parent, but and that's how we want,
Yeah.
we want to address that surface level acting out when really she's, Leah's struggling on the inside at that time
Yeah.
and she
Mhm.
doesn't understand it. And
Yeah.
so like you
Yeah.
said, being able to approach that with love and just say, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. So
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. And listen, I love you. You may not feel like my little sunshine right now, but I love you.
I'll call you my
And
little storm cloud.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But maybe getting her to talk, or when they're in those situations and being like, why do you feel that way? Why do you not feel like my sunshine? And maybe get to the root of that problem, or why she's feeling that way. And that can be challenged, especially 4 or 5 years old. They're not going to know,
Yeah, I mean,
but
and it
just
was
Sure.
difficult because I mean, she was her and her dad were very, very close, and then I come in, and then her and her mom
yeah,
were really close, and she's living with with her mom. She was living with her mom for a bit, then with us, and like it's this child is torn,
Oh,
and I
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
understood that, and you could see that, right? And it's not the child's fault, and so
yeah,
my best solution is that kill them with kindness, just
they're
just
Yeah.
love
100%.
people
That's
in
it.
what they can accept, in a way they can accept. And it's all in how you approach things. And it's all in how you respond to things, whether good or bad. And sometimes it just takes for us, instead of to react, to just
Sure.
Mhm.
stop and think for a minute and just wait a minute. What's the best way that I can approach this?
Mhm.
And I know that for me in my life and in my situations, love is and kindness is always better than any negativity or violence or yelling. And patience and understanding isn't always easy.
Mhm.
It takes
Mhm.
work. It takes a
Sure.
lot of work.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you really want something, and if the love in your heart it will surmount most problems, I think. You'll find a way just through the love that's going to be flowing through you. You will find a way. The answers will come to you. I don't know if you're spiritual or not, but
Yes.
I focus a lot on my inner power and God, and how I can use that and be a vehicle for that love, that's coming through me, so that can extend worldwide. That's in everything that I do. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and Kathy, I see that a lot because you do hear like the evil stepmom and they get a bad rap. But what
Yeah.
we experience a lot, it's not necessarily, there are women out there, I guess, or even stepdads that come at it and have a negative mindset with it. But what we experience, and for myself personally as well, and like what it sounds like you were doing as well, is that you really just love and you want to love. But there is this different dynamic that is really hard because I'm not only like, I'm a biological mom. So I already have this mothering nature inside of me. I'm caring for this child that's in my house. I don't want to treat her any different than I'm treating my children. And then plus I'm a teacher as well. And so it's just very natural for me to like do those things. It just
Hmm.
comes out of me. And it became this thing where I was just naturally wanting to love her like my own, but I stepped on a lot of toes in the process, not meaning to. It was all out of genuine just love and kindness towards my stepdaughter, but I didn't take time to really I guess honor her mother in that situation and have like some open communication and conversation with her from the beginning. Like, look, hey,
Mhm.
I want to be like a bonus mom. I want to be an addition to what you have. I know you already have a mom. I'm not trying to replace her, and have some conversations with her, even as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old would have eased some tension that came up. But I came in just thinking, okay, our other relationships did not work. I don't want my family to come from brokenness. So here we are. We're going to create this beautiful picture, and it's going to look like normal, because I came from a lot of dysfunction as well. So I was desperate carrying that baggage into this marriage of, okay, we're going to be as normal as possible. And I have to
Mhm.
force this, guys.
Yeah.
So that's where the struggle really came in, to where if I would have had some understanding that this is never going to look like what I have envisioned as a normal, perfect movie, whatever kind of family, and
Mm.
approached it with a gentleness with my stepdaughter, and even with Randall's ex-wife. If I could have opened some lines of communication there, it would have, helped us solve a lot of those issues a lot sooner.
That doesn't
Yeah.
always happen though with co-parenting. You have
Mhm.
the other parent quite often even, well, their resentment,
Yep.
they're resenting that they feel like they're being replaced, or they use the children as pawns in in
Mhm.
Yeah.
in, in the extreme cases, which is so wrong.
Yes. Yeah, we do. We see that a lot. And unfortunately, and we always say, as co-parenting, it is a challenge.
Mhm.
It can really be a
Mhm.
challenge because you divorce for a reason, right? You divorce most of the time because you had differences.
Yeah.
And so it is complicated to really be able to co-parent. But I think it's, especially within the child's best interest, that when you're approaching co-parenting, trying to keep that communication open and being able to talk more if you can, because when you both are arguing or you both are really going at it, the only person who loses is the kid. Your
Mm.
child's the one
Sure.
who's losing in that, and that's the hardest part. And so I think it's really trying to be sensitive of that. And we don't, I always go back to human nature. That's not our normal instinct. Our normal instinct is to fight. and
Yeah.
you need to hear my way, and my way's right. But if we can come down off that and kind of, as you were saying, Kathy, approach things with love, because I know for us, God was the one who really just, man, if we didn't have our faith, we wouldn't have overcome all the struggles that we did. But being able to approach your co-parent with love and say, listen, I may disagree with you, but can we reach a compromise? What can we do?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to put the kid in the middle. And I think that comes with just knowledge, right? That comes with being able to hear from other people and say, whenever you're doing that, it's putting your kid in the middle. I think that for any parent would make you want to step back a little bit and go,
Sure.
oh, uh, well, I never thought of it that way. Okay,
And
maybe I need to
Yeah.
calm down a little bit.
And I think
Right.
in a normal situation, and like what Randall's saying, and there's just so many different situations when it comes to blended families and all the different reasons. Like, that is the ideal, and that's what the goal is. That's our goal, is to help people come to that place where they can. But a lot of it, like, and we struggled with it, is you can only control what you can control. And so if you come to a place like you're saying, because there is, bitterness and resentment on both sides, and what that looks like, and putting kids in the middle. And
Mhm.
we had to come to a place, and what we try to help others too is realizing you can only control what is going on in your household. And for me, it took me therapy actually to realize that, and to realize that I was bringing in a lot of my baggage from
Yeah.
my childhood and my trauma, so that certain things that were happening in our family was triggering those things, and then I would
Sure.
react to them. But when I became really confident in just who I was, and not so insecure about my mothering, or you turn into that 12-year-old little girl, or at least I do when I get in certain situations. Like, I don't even feel like a grown adult anymore, right? I'm 40,
Mhm.
but all of a sudden I'm a scared little girl again. And until I was able to get past those hurts for myself, I couldn't move forward and let go of some of those fears that I was parenting out of, things I was trying to protect my kids from. And then when I finally realized that, then I was able to better parent in my household. Cause like y'all are all saying, like, in some situations, you want that, but it's not possible, or at least it's not possible right now. We always try to err on the hopefulness of it, that one day it'll come. Even with our adult kids, we just pray that one day that it'll come to the point where we're all just getting along, sitting on the bleachers, cheering on our grandkids at their softball team kind of stuff.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, is building a positive image of trucking by telling the story of the hardworking drivers and industry professionals who support the industry. And you can be a part of it. Learn more about TMAF and how you can join and be a part of the industry movement working to build a strong image of trucking by visiting TMAF's website at truckingmovesamerica.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our latest channel, TikTok.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
We're talking with Randall and Scarlett Tandy. They're creators of How to Enjoy Your Blended Family. Randall and Scarlett counsel couples on effective co-parenting techniques and how to make blended families thrive. So can families actually, not in every case I would imagine, but ideally, can blended families get away from the us versus them mentality? Because there can be a lot of resentment and sparring that's going on. Parents can really feel like they're in a battleground every time they get up in the morning, right?
Sure. Blended families always come with walls, is kind of what we say, especially with our kids, and our kids amplify what we feel. And that's why we always say that even in a blended family, I think this is a hard one for blended families to really get, is our marriage has to come first. We have our faith and we believe God first in our marriage, but our marriage has got to be first. And that doesn't mean that our kids get neglected by any means. What that means is me and her, we are working at our marriage. We're being very intentional to make sure our marriage is healthy, strong, that we're communicating really well. Because a lot of the struggles that come through is just really lack of communication. Us not communicating about things and talking through things. Instead, we internalize things, let things build up, then we blow up on each other. Or, one will parent one way, one will parent the other way, and, we're a house divided. So it's really the more that we're intentional in our marriage of connecting, having date nights, and spending that quality time together, talking about our schedules and really connecting in that sense, that's healthy for our family. Now our kids see us on a united front, and that helps keep those walls of division, that us against them, down whenever we can do more of that. So it's really us trying to make sure that we're together. So it's got to start with us, and then our kids will benefit.
If you can't even parent with your current spouse well, and you're not communicating, like, how are you going to be able to communicate with your ex-spouse as well and be able to have that open communication when you're still struggling inside your own home? And so that's what we have found and used, just all the struggles that have happened with the blended family, where they tend to want to tear us apart so that we end up in the same situation we found ourselves before, which is divorced and now taking our kids through the ringer again. We have seen, like, okay, we have got to put this as a priority. We've got to learn to communicate with each other and see each other as the same team, and that we're on the same team with the same common goal for our family. And when we do that, then we can begin to start looking at, okay, our co-parents, our ex-spouses, we're also on the same team. We have the same common goal, and that is to raise healthy, loving children. My ex-spouse or his ex-spouse, they're not trying to there are certain circumstances where there are some people out there, but in most situations, parents are out there just trying to raise like loving, successful children.
It's got to be difficult, though. And I can see having a healthy relationship in your second marriage is so important. Like you said, a unified front. When you're dealing with a co-parent, it could be somebody you really can't stand. That is hard to step out of that and communicate diplomatically and maintain that focus, because I would still think there'd be some of that energy of resentment that created the problem where the marriage didn't work in the first place.
Yeah, and if things are that we call it high conflict, right? And really, the definition that we believe high conflict is both sides see things differently. There's big differences, and depending on the different dynamics that you have out there, some don't have that big of differences. Maybe some are they're able to get along a lot easier than others, but a lot of times we see it to where it is more of a high conflict. And with that, first, all we can do is control ourselves, right? We can't control our ex-spouses. We can't control the way that they react or that they act, but we can control us and our actions and our reactions. And so really making sure that our emotions are in check whenever we're trying to communicate. Because if we feel like we've got to have our voice heard, and so we're trying to talk over the other one, all that's going to do is lead to where we're escalating things, right? So
Right.
really, if we can recognize that and say, okay, I want to make sure things are de-escalated, and that all comes from the tone of my voice whenever I'm talking. If I can maintain a calm tone, then that helps de-escalate the situation to where you both can hear from each other. That's ideal. But if it can't get to that point, you've got to be able to set up healthy boundaries within yourself and within your home.
Mhm.
Um, and that's going to look different for everyone. But if you know that you and your ex just can't talk to each other, then that healthy boundary might be, okay, we need a mediator. We need someone that
Yeah.
we can talk through.
Not your child.
Not yeah, not your child.
Right.
Definitely not your
Uh-huh.
child. Hey, little Susie, my 8-year-old. We need you in between the
Yeah.
no.
Tell your mother I said. Yeah.
And that happens all the
Exactly.
time. It does, even when you don't mean to.
But yeah,
Mhm.
and maybe that is saying, okay, we're both mature enough to where we know we got too big of differences. I'm not
Mhm.
seeing your way and you're not seeing mine. So maybe we need a mediator to where we're going through, and that mediation can look different in so many ways, right? So, it's just being able to set up healthy boundaries that protect you and your family and your emotions. But ultimately, if you approach the situation with love, and we found, I think what has helped us, and we wish we would have seen this earlier, is if we can just put ourselves in their shoes. And I think a lot
Mhm.
of times we just don't. I know for me, I can get very strong headed and believe my way is the right way. And, I'm a recovering perfectionist myself as well. But, it's one of those that the more I can put myself in others' shoes, the more I can really have empathy and
Mhm.
they see it from their eyes and their position. And whenever I can hear them and hear their heart, then they're more apt to want to hear me and hear my heart. So that has helped over the years, but that takes personal growth and working because yeah, normally, especially if you're freshly divorced or freshly remarried, yeah, you still got your boxing gloves on,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
still wanting to go at it.
Oh, sure. You haven't had a chance to recover from all of that and all
And
those things.
yeah, and people jump into new relationships so quick that
Yeah.
they don't recover from all that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the truth?
Mhm.
They're alone for 5 minutes, and as soon as somebody pays attention to them, boom, they're in
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah,
Without
and that
even taking the chance to know who they are and what
yeah,
they like, and focus on healing and
sure.
recovering. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just listening to what you were saying, and a thought came to me about how we parents often use the child as the mediator. Another thing, um, which happens quite often, is bashing the other parent, being really negative about
Yeah.
them in front of the child.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's one of the most harmful things that we can do. Sometimes we do it without even realizing the child is there or they're listening because they're busy playing toys or watching TV or whatever. But as a reminder to everyone out there, when you're going through some stuff with your exes and with um, even in your own personal families, to kids are like sponges. They absorb
Oh, yeah.
everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially the negative stuff that comes. I mean, their filtering process is a little different than when you're grown up and kind of hardened to the world. So just, I guess, as a suggestion to everyone out there, is just to pay attention when your kids are around, what it is you're putting out there in a negative sense, against other people, as in terms of gossip, or just being hateful or mean, or oh, she did this and she did that, and oh my God, can
Yeah.
you believe that? Like, how things
Yeah.
get. And so just to really pay attention to what we're doing, what we're saying in the presence of children. It's like
Mhm.
arguing in front of children or being hateful and all that. It really leaves a lasting impression.
It does,
So
and then they think that that's the way that they need to interact with people when they're
Sure.
adults.
yeah, or often they'll think it's their fault,
Yeah.
right? So they grow up
Yeah.
feeling guilty already, and it
Mhm.
shouldn't be like that.
Well, it does. It puts them in the middle. And we heard this one time, and whenever we heard it, it was like, oh wow, if we're talking bashing the other parent in front of our kids, that is half of our kid right there. Our kid
Oh,
makes
sure.
up both of us.
Yeah.
And so they're taking it personal as
Yeah.
well. And ultimately, and I think this is one of the things that are hard for us to really grab a hold of initially is that that is their parent, whether you like it or
Mhm.
not,
Yeah.
that is their parent, and they love their parent, and they should love their parent.
Yep.
And whenever we're talking negative about them, that hurts them to the core,
Oh,
and they don't know how to
absolutely.
process that. So yeah, really, we're doing them a disservice by speaking negatively about their parent, and so yeah, it's really, like you said, being sensitive to that. And it's so easy for us to want to, talk bad about the other parent and stuff, especially when you are having differences. But being able to control your tongue is huge. It is huge.
Oh, and that takes some serious discipline, doesn't it? It's like,
Yes.
oh, take
Oh,
a deep breath, bite your tongue, bite your lip.
yes.
Oh, yes.
But that's blended families. I think, and that's
Sure.
the beauty of blended families is if we learn more personal growth, if we take it as an opportunity for us to learn more about ourselves and learn how to handle others more, we need that even stronger than a nuclear family. But if we can take that opportunity, man, it just makes us better people.
Mhm.
And not just that, not only is it going to bless our families, but it's going to bless all those around us. It's
Sure.
just going to make all of our friendships stronger, all of our other relationships stronger. But yeah, so much we continue carrying our old baggage, and we bring it in, and we want to add more to the baggage, and it
Mhm.
never gets better.
Well, and we make
Right.
excuses for our own stuff, but then when it's our ex-spouse, or your stepchild or whatever or your current spouse that's doing something, that frustrates you and gets on your nerves or makes you mad, angry, and you don't want to hear excuses. But when it's you, you're like, yeah, but you don't understand what I've been through.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Kathy DeCaro is nothing short of amazing. She not only drives the world's biggest truck as a heavy equipment operator in northern Alberta, Canada. She's an international motivational speaker and the author of Dream Big, an autobiography about overcoming a lifetime of trauma and abuse that led to dreams of success. Kathy inspires people the world over to change their lives and improve their self-worth. Her book will change your life. She's passionate about personal growth and believes anyone can change their circumstances and overcome their obstacles if they believe in themselves. Her life will amaze you and seriously inspire you. Be sure to order a copy of her book, Dream Big, on Amazon.com. Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry. Our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
On this episode of Women Road Warriors, we're talking with Randall and Scarlett Tandy. They counsel couples on how to have successful blended families. Randall and Scarlett, you folks do so many things. It's just amazing. You've been active in your church. Parenting with Faith helped you a great deal too, correct?
Oh, we wouldn't have survived anything without God in our lives. And that,
Yeah.
that was um, really whenever I know I divorced, my divorce was really challenging. And I didn't understand what a relationship with God was at that time. I knew God, but I didn't understand what that meant. But that's what really catapulted me in my faith. I was like, I need you. you know,
Mhm.
I was clinging. I was like, man, so that was so faith building for me to walk through that part. And yeah, I'd made a commitment to God, like we do sometimes in desperation. We're like, well, God, if you do this, I'll do that.
Bargaining.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me try to bargain with God. And but yeah, I just knew that through our divorce, if I had custody, that I was going to raise my daughter in church. I was going to be in church. And, I did. I stuck to that wholeheartedly. And so anytime the doors were open, I was there. It's kind of one of those.
Sure.
Yeah, and definitely that. I mean, so he explained it like during the divorce process. That's both of us is when we really began to lean on God. And honestly, I was a little upset with God because my ex-husband was military and he was off like fighting during the Iraqi war and stuff. And so during that time is when I really began to pursue a relationship with God. And I found a relationship in that moment, like, that was like my hope was during that time because I was just so scared of what was going on around the world. And then my ex-husband, he was my husband at the time, comes home and he was not a believer. And so I had this faith that I had grown up with but never practiced. And now I'm at the church all the time. I'm trying to raise the kids that way. He comes in and there was just a lot of disunity with there and it caused some issues. And then ultimately we divorced pretty soon after that. And so I was like angry with God about like what is love and how love lasts forever and that's just a joke and this and that. And so when I went on that, when I said that soul searching journey and really discovered God taking me and carrying me through that, and then raising our children in that, just like Randall was saying, we were very adamant this is how we want to raise our kids. But man, when your kids leave, they were 14, 15 years old and I wasn't done raising them, like I still had a few more years and they're gone. And now I'm just feeling like my nest, my empty nester happened way sooner than I was prepared for.
Right.
I was worried every day. They're in their teenage years. They're making choices that I don't agree with, like, are they? I don't know because, I don't know what's happening. And man, I just was just living a life in fear. And so I just had to be able to give it over to God and really trust that he is a better father than a parent than I can ever be. And so I began to trust that he's going to take care of them. Even when they're away from me, he's going to take care of them. We planted the seeds. They have that inside of them and they're going to come out of this better and stronger. And when I was able to release that in a way, it took the pressure of me as mom having to do everything perfect, because that's what I was trying to do is raise them in this like, perfect household mindset, everything. And when I gave that over and let him have that and realized I'm never going to be able to get it right, it eased this tension to where my kids were wanting to be around me more. They started to come back around and we were able to have these relationships with them and be very intentional in that. It allowed me to trust God with the parts that I couldn't control and then just love and be super intentional with the relationship side with our kids.
And that's so important. You thought so deeply about all of these things, and I think you really bring to the table to couples some really good insight. You have basically a roadmap. It's called How to Enjoy Your Blended Family. If you wanted to maybe talk about some of those pointers, because there's so many things that go into a blended family. I'm sure you've got tons of questions from people saying, what do I do now? you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. And thank you for that question. Now what we discovered, we like we said, we had so many, it's been a roller coaster ride, but our faith has been what's the glue kept us together through all this. But whenever we were going through the most difficult parts of our lives, with our kids leaving and each one by one for certain situations and that's another talk all on
Yeah.
its own. But what brought each one of them back was our open hearts, but our intentionality to have fun, to enjoy it, to set aside some of those differences and to say, you know what, let's celebrate us and let's have fun together. And what we found out through that whole journey is ultimately, that's what allowed each one of the kids to come back one by one and come back under our roof and restored our relationships to something even more beautiful than it was before. But it was that intentionality on creating fun opportunities. And that's kind of what we were missing. We get so busy in life. With work, with, taking kids here, there, just the stressors that come along with it. A lot of times we find ourselves putting our relationships on the back burner
Yeah.
and then filling our life around with everything else. So we really found that whenever we're intentional to make sure that we're putting on the calendar, spending time with my wife, making that we're putting it on the calendar. We're going to do that. And then having family time, having maybe me and my stepdaughter doing something, or me and my stepson doing something. We're putting those things on the calendar. Now we can feel everything else around it, but now we're being intentional on those relationships, because we found that whenever you're having fun together, when you're doing something together, and we believe that if you can do it over common interests, things that you both like to do, that is relationship 101 building. I mean, you come together in a powerful way that helps keep walls down. And now we're having fun over laughter, over enjoyment. And so it's really bringing that intentionality back. And so, yeah, how to enjoy your blended family. We walk through 5 intentional dates that you can have in your blended family to discover what that fun looks like for you. And through these 5 dates, you'll discover new things within yourself, within your spouse, within your kids, and it gives you a plan. You'll come out with an action plan that continues going on over and over again, to where now you are able to put this on the calendar. You know how, and we walk you through a really easy process to be able to do it, but you walk out with a great game plan to where you're being intentional and having fun. Now you're
Connecting.
able to enjoy it, because we really have discovered the more fun you have together, the less problems you'll see. And that's powerful, because so much we find ourselves in blended families getting focused and sucked into all the challenges, that it can really start sucking the joy out of life, sucking the joy out of your family. You can create that negative environment in your home to where nobody wants to be there. It's like, I don't even want to be here. So it's whenever we can shift our focus and start creating these opportunities to have fun and laugh over games, game nights, and just connecting over, different interests. That is powerful. Now everyone wants to be together, and you're keeping those walls down, just having fun together.
Yeah, and you don't want to, we explain, like in our situation, our relationships were completely like zero communication, in some of the situations for several years. And so that's in the worst of the situations, right? You have no relationship with your stepchild, or your biological child, or your stepchild, or whatever. You're having to really reconnect that relationship. But we don't want it to have, like, what we created. It's not like for the extreme situations either, but we want to show that it does work even in the most extreme situations. But even in your regular day-to-day life, like, this is something that we did as we were raising our kids, but also we even still use in our young adults' life, is walking through this process and just figuring out, okay, life is going to throw enough hard stuff at you. There is so much coming at us. There's so much negativity all around all the time. We can just sit there and look at it and try to problem solve everything out there, and more stuff's going to come. So we just like, okay, let's put that aside. Let's find some things that we enjoy doing together. And so it really does, how to enjoy your blended family. It helps you connect for yourself, for those that are needing that, like, I just need some me time and to figure out what I like. It helps you figure out the things with your spouse, how y'all can bond, and connect in that way. But even with your individual children, biological and step, and as a whole family, it just takes you through this process of figuring it all out.
And if you can do new things, we always say this too, you create new experiences. That's powerful. So, it's through that, even discovering things that y'all want to try, new things that y'all could go out there and experience together. That is just so relationship building right there. So that it really is. It's powerful. And we've seen it over and over again in our lives and in other blended families. And so, yeah, we just really encourage, let's bring some joy back in our family. We need
Heck
it.
yeah.
Positive.
And that can come in the shape of the little things. Often
Yes.
people think that it requires something like some big event that costs a lot of money, but that's so untrue, because
Yep.
you can have joy in the smallest things with your kids, and it's not about the money, it's not about the size of the event, but it's about the
Yep.
quality time spent together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
100%. That's, we talk about the small things, the big things, things that cost a lot of money. And what's so, what we can get focused on is we're going to have a vacation one time a year, and then we're going to make up for all the other times within the
day-to-day.
year
Yeah.
of the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to try to make up for it all in one setting in 1 week, and that's just
Yeah.
impossible.
Sure
So it's
is.
really being
Yep.
intentional on a weekly basis
Yeah.
and doing it small, finding maybe you and your stepson love to play tennis. So y'all are putting, hey, you want to go play tennis? I mean, it's something free, something to do. Maybe it's a walk around the park. So yes, it can look so different to, your dynamics. So it really is focusing just on the intentionality on a week to week basis.
And one thing that I had to learn in my particular situation, I ended up becoming an alcoholic, and my daughter went to live with her dad for a couple of years, and I was homeless, and just like a whole bunch of things. And I didn't talk to her for a couple of years while I was trying to regain my, who I am, and let go of my addiction and all that. And in the process of, getting my life back and getting her respect back by this time she was 16 and all that, learning to not buy her affection back for all the
Yes.
mistakes
Yeah.
that I made.
Yeah.
Sure.
My
Yeah.
personal guilt about how I felt like I was a crappy mother.
Mhm.
Learning to not try and buy her affection back with things. And that was a process for me. And especially once I got a really good paying job, and then I'm like, no, this isn't going to work like that. So
Yep.
now what we do is we make a point of taking a vacation together. Like her birthday's in December, December 10th, and there's Christmas. So instead of, once I got this job 9 years ago, I stopped buying gifts, and I said, instead, we are going to make memories together. We are going
I
to
love
take
that.
Yeah.
one trip, and we're just going to go create something. And it's way more powerful than
Yes.
any trinket that you
That's
can
right.
buy.
Mhm.
Right. Because I mean, I was a nurse for 13 years. You think, and the one thing that I know is that you think time is your friend. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
would much
Yeah.
rather create memories that when I'm gone, that she can bring with her till the end, than
Sure.
just some stupid thing that you might lose in a fire or whatever. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
And
that's
your
the
kids
key,
want
not buying
that.
your children's affection.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Randall
your
and
kids want that too.
Randall and Scarlett, I love what you're doing here. How do people reach out to you?
Sure. Yeah. You can find us on our website. It's enjoyingyourblendedfamily.com. That really has everything there. So we're there. We're on our podcast.
Yeah, podcast is we put out a new podcast every Monday and Friday. Mondays is like more of the hot topics, the hard parts. And then on Fridays we share like fun things to do, fun ideas, sometimes out of the box, sometimes in the box. And then you find us being silly on Instagram, enjoying your blended family. We're on there just it's edutainment. I think we're a little bit entertaining, a little bit
Sure.
informational, and putting it out there just to connect with other blended families.
Excellent. This is wonderful. It's a resource that people have needed for a long time.
Yeah. And we love hearing the stories, of blended families really coming together and strengthening, using a lot of these tools, tips, tricks that are out there. And we're starting to see more and more resources. And if anything, if we can encourage any blended family out there, just to know you're not alone, and I think that's the biggest thing, is knowing that there is a community. And when we lock arms together and we continue growing and learning from each other, all that does is strengthen your family and
Yep.
brings more enjoyment. So that's what it's all about.
Power in numbers, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show. This is going to be super helpful for our listeners, I think.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you for having
yes.
us. It's been an honor and pleasure and great
A lot
conversation.
of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And it's been great having you on the show.
You've been listening to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. If you want to be a guest on the show or have a topic or feedback, email us at info@tncradio.live.
Thank you for listening to another great interview on tncradio.live. And don't forget, be sure to subscribe to our podcast of Women Road Warriors. It's free. All of the material you hear on tncradio.live, on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of tncradio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live.